Could I have your attention for about 10 minutes? This is Meehan from County Limerick, and I'm going to sing a few songs, and I'm going to say a few words what Ireland was like, rural Ireland, in the 30s, 40s and 50s. I was born in 1932, and I grew up listening to a lot of stories and a lot of changes, and amount of changes in my lifetime. When I was very young, I saw women, old women, not too many of them, with black shawls over their heads, and they were smoking a clay pipe, carry on plugged tobacco, and they'd open the shawl and they'd blow out a gush of smoke. I also saw men, again not too many of them, they had a straw sugan around their waist, and they were chewing tobacco, and they'd quench a coal fire spitting into it. Now, some of those men, they sat on a bag of hay, chiseling out the limestone trucks, hour by hour and day by day, chewing their own plugged tobacco and eating yellow bacon. Now all those men are long gone, but some of those stone trucks, the limestone trucks, are still around, and they're very much sought after, especially the ones that were hammered out with a hammer and chisel. In my young days, there had 4 items leave the rural house, gone. The singer-stone machine and the gramophone, gone. Number 3, the open fire, the crane, the 3-legged pots are gone. And number 4, Our Lady. She has survived in some houses, but there are quite a number of houses and there's no Our Lady in them. When I was young, I was going to school and I come home, there was a little brass lamp with a red globe and it had to be filled with oil. And Our Lady would have been the shining light in that house that night. Today, Elvis Presley is the shining light in some houses. There's no doubt time brings changes. The rural housewife, she played a large part in rural Ireland. The day the pig would be killed, she was the one that would collect the blood with the bucket. You wouldn't have too many volunteers for that. And she was the one that made the lovely black puddings. The meat would be cut into flitches and put into an oak barrel to cure for 4 to 5 weeks. It would be taken out of the barrel and it would be hung up on the ceiling near the open fireplace. And after about 6 to 7 weeks it would turn yellow. And it was known as yellow bacon. And you could have that 7 days a week. It was mighty stuff. There was a man near me, not too far away from me, and he kept 13 or 14 dairy cows. He kept a couple of pigs as well, and he used to buy a bag of bran. And when he'd bring home the bag of bran, he'd empty it into a barrel. And of course the bran bag was about 4 foot 6 long. And he'd cut the 2 sides, slit the 2 sides with the scissors, and he'd make it about 9 feet long. And he'd put one end of it over the tankard of the milk churn to strain the milk. Cows are milked by hand that time. Now he'd move it along when it got dirty. Now I don't know how many times he moved it or how often, but he would make sure to get his 1 6 out of the bran bag. So it's known as loose milk, and it wasn't pasteurised, and it was sold as loose milk. It was known as 1940 hygiene. He was doing a good day's work. There were other people milking cows and they were put into the tankers direct from milking the cow. Not a very hygiene job. When I grown up, there was another thing that happens in my young days. The sow, a couple of days before she was due to have manners, she'd be brought into the kitchen for 2 weeks. She'd get VIP treatment. There'd be a blanket put over her at night, and somebody in the household would have to stay up to mind the sow. You'd think she was going to do a runner. And she'd get a hot drink at night. Could be a bottle of stout, heated with hot milk. the stout was known as mull porter, to keep us quiet for the night, that whoever be minding us, get him no bother. Now, that's how she was in the kitchen for 2 weeks, and maybe 13 or 14 bonhams, and they wouldn't be what you call streetwise. They could even walk into the fire. So the household, people in the household had to be very, very careful. There was a lot thought of the sow in those days, because there was times she kept the sheriff and the bailiffs from the door, especially during the economic war from 1932 to 1938. Things were very bad. There was no export for our livestock. Very bad. About the present generation, I don't think they tolerate that. I would say, what they'd say is, either the sow go or we go. But those were the times, and times change. Now, I used to hear my father and mother and older people talking about the 1920s. We got our freedom in 1922. Garda Síochána was formed, the Irish Army, and Fianna Fáil party was formed in 1926. And they got into power in 1932, led by Eamon de Valera. They were in power for 16 years, and there was a snap election called in February 1948. Now, in the meantime, a new party had emerged, Clanna Publica, led by Sean McBride. Actually, they got 12 seats in that election. And Deb's party were defeated. And there was a government formed with 7 parties to run the country. I named the 7 parties: Fine Gael 1, Clanna Publica 2, Labour 3, National Labour 4, Clanna 5, Independent 6, and Monetary Reform 7. Clanna was the Farmers' Party led by Blowick, and Monetary Reform was a one-man party led by Oliver J. Flanagan. He stood Police Offaly. His son now is with Fine Gael. Dr. Noel Brown was a doctor, and he won a seat with Clanna Publica, and they made him Minister for Health. He was a brilliant man. He was a man before his time. And when he was made Minister, the first thing he saw that the youth of our country was being drained out, immigration and TB. So the first thing, he tackled TB. And he said to his doctors, let's come up with a cure for that TB, which they did. Now, I was in a sanatorium. There was a number of sanatoriums around the country, and I was in a sanatorium, not as a patient. I went to see a friend of ours, and I'll never forget what I saw. There were rows of young boys and young girls, from 18 to 30, to more, all blue in the face from coughing, and large windows and they're wide open. So Dr. Noel Brown sorted out that. They were in power for about 2.5 years, maybe 3, and he brought in a bill called the Mother and Child Scheme. And the Archbishop of Dublin at the time, John McQuaig, he went to Sean McBride, leader of Clanna Publica, and he said to him, you'll have to get rid of him. He said, I'm not going to allow that bill to go through. Dr. Noel Brown was dumped for all he had done. Of course, the Catholic Church, a great power that time, not that power today. Now, in my young days, when I was 15 or 16, I started smoking coffin-nails. I smoked a lot of coffin-nails in my young days, and my pals were smoking coffin-nails. You could buy a pack of 5 coffin-nails in a little blue low top in it, and you could smoke away at your heart's content. Now, those coffin-nails were the wild woodbine cigarette, and some didn't do so well. I'm still here to tell the story. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.